Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to #GotMoney. I've got a really exciting show for you today. I'm speaking to Jocelyn, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Macaulay Community Services for Women. Jocelyn, welcome to #GotMoney.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Macaulay Community Services for Women. I just want you to unwrap a little bit about that for us, how you came into fruition.
They're a highly educated group of women who, went across the world. I mean, the story has it that, often sisters or religious orders were invited in by priests of wherever they were to come and sort of do the work. And so they were Irish. They started off in Ireland, of course. And Sister Ursula Frame, I think she was the first to come to Australia. And so the bishop invited her out to Melbourne, and he'd already, so the story goes, he'd already, the convent was built. Anyway, but he thought, oh, this is such a beautiful building, I'll have it. And when the sisters come, they'll have to get another property. And so when the sisters came and had to get their own property, another property, well, the parishioners had already kind of contributed to the first convent, so they felt that they couldn't go and just ask them for another building. So they went around and did a whole lot of door knocking and got no interest loans and some donations and commitments to build this property for themselves to live in. And within 6 months, they'd paid off their loans and done whatever they had to do. So that just quite
when was
amazing.
this? What
Very
era?
Feminist.
When was this?
So Catherine herself started her work officially, I think I should know these, I've been around long enough, I should know the dates, but around mid 1800s. And then they...
in Ireland, in Dublin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then they would have got here. Within 10 years, they were here.
Oh, my God. My family are from Dublin, so I'm really clear on what 1800s, what Dublin looked like in the 1800s.
Yes,
I am
exactly.
so clear. Oh, absolutely. My God. And on the back end of that, they came here and the bishop said, no way. And they went, okay, we'll do it anyway.
And what I really, really like about Catherine as a person, and I think that's what she resonates with all of our staff, in that, she was a real, she complained when somebody wasn't up to scratch, and she kind of said, well, come on, you can do it, and all that sort of stuff that a leader of an organisation or a member of an organisation would have to do. So she was just a real person with the highs and lows of life.
I love that. So when they started making room for homeless women, was it about violence? Look, it wasn't necessarily named as such in those days, but certainly it was recognised as, abuse or, women at risk of violence. So she took women in. But also what she did was she tailored her response. This is still sort of sector speak. She met women at where they wanted to be met. So if there was a young one who came from a high class society, she didn't automatically sort of give a handout. She said, well, what is it that you need from us? And so really managed the way she dealt with people who needed her support was very, very dignified and really based on what they needed at the time. Is that the premise of what you do now as an organisation?
We try to. It's harder now, I think. We certainly try to meet people where they're at with what they want, but it's incredibly difficult in the way that we've organised our systems in a sort of a rich Western world, that we've got systems confined to do a particular job. So homelessness is expected to deal with homelessness, and family violence is expected to deal with family violence. So a case in point, if I may, is the police called us a while back now, where a perpetrator had burnt down the family home, 2 teenage children and a wife inside, and they were supposed to be all murdered. And so they weren't. They survived. They were saved or got out.
Thank
Thank God.
And, yeah, so they were driving around in their car. He was in remand, house burnt down. So family violence response is, well, you're safe from him because he's locked up. So it's not a family violence response you need. And homelessness response, all that can do is, well, you come to our access point, our front door, and we'll see you for 15 minutes and we'll put you in a hotel and you'll come back the next day and we'll put you in a hotel for another day until we can sort this out. And so what you've got though is 3 traumatised individuals driving around in a car, needing somewhere to be, to even just grasp what's happened to them. And it's not the fault of either service. Both services are highly rationed now. And so they have to prioritise to the nth degree. So we can't blame the system, or the services rather, for that response. But it's not the response that she and her teenage children need at that time.
So let's talk about that. It sounds like the system itself needs to be reformed. Like Sister Catherine Macaulay just opened a door and let them in, and then saw to their needs. I mean, you know, my mum was a psychiatric nurse, and she said the wonderful thing about having the hospitals is that people knew where to go. They went through that front door, and then everything got taken care of. So we need we actually need to go backwards a little bit to Catherine Macaulay's first initial response to family violence, and that's just have a house. You go there, and then everything's taken care of.
Yeah, so our response to that call from police was, bring them over, we've got a space in a refuge, in they come. But, so, and we're proud of that sort of response when we can do that. That's what we want to be able to do. We want to be able to respond to people based on what they need at that moment and then work out. So work out from immediate need. And we have that flexibility within our funding scope because we do, we're not just 100% reliant on government funding. So we've got some more flexibility, or a bit more ability to take this, take clients on the basis of their need. Also, we span homelessness, mental health and family violence. We're not purely family violence or homelessness or mental health.
You're the whole gamut.
Yes, and so we're very intentional about that, but it's a lot of work to maintain such a microcosm of a system within an organisation.
Is it better to be everything under one roof?
I believe so. I believe our outcomes demonstrate very good, so outcomes for women are demonstrated by the model that we've built. So if you're interested at any time, I can send you a document which is called a social return on investment, but it outlines 30 case studies with the outcomes attributable to each of those people. So we've been able to individualise our support across a number of women who come to our services. So effectively we can tailor the support to each woman's needs, and we can do that at scale.
So let's talk about need. You know, I was speaking, you know, my superhero is Jeanette Large from WPI, and I'm not afraid to say it out loud. I got a little T-shirt that I occasionally put on, and so I got the Jeanette Large T-shirt on today.
Yeah.
So Jeanette said that while the phone calls between the victim and STEPS or other organisations had gone down during COVID, that the increase had not dissipated, that the need has not dissipated, that now it was just direct contact with the police. Have you seen the volume of need increase as a consequence of COVID?
Okay, so a couple of things in the way of answering that one. First of all, Macaulay doesn't take calls or receive people at the front door quite in that way. So we're not, fortunately, having to deal every day with unmet demand. So Safe Steps is a statewide referral service,
I'm not sure if we're allowed to quote this, but yesterday I heard staff say from Safe Steps that they took 230 calls and 35 web chats in a single day this week. Now, some of that will be from third parties. So, assuming, you know, just say you were worried for your sister-in-law or something, you could be the third party ringing. So those calls include third party people. So their numbers are reportedly now higher than they were before COVID. So there was an initial dip, drop in the first few weeks, possibly a couple of months into COVID. And now it's back to pre-COVID levels, and they expect that to continue to escalate. Now, go on.
Sorry, do you think the cracks inside relationships have started to show up as a consequence of COVID? Do you think that's why people are experiencing? And I know this isn't your space directly, but would you think that might be a case, just as an idea?
Yes, what we know about family violence is it is a manifestation of family violence is coercive control, so controlling behaviour. So if he's at home, if the both parties are at home, there's no relief from that. So it's the micro controlling. When you have a shower, how you make your cup of tea, whether you walk the dog, whether you put lipstick on, you know, it's the micro controlling of her life that is a feature of family violence. So if he is generally at work, then she's got some relief through the day of that micro control. So if he's at home, he's got more opportunity to control. And if he's under pressure, or the family's under pressure from finances or whatever else, then that can exacerbate that behaviour.
We were talking yesterday about financial abuse, and you really, and what hit home to me was that was absolutely part of family violence. And I didn't quite understand it to the extent that you explained it. Do you want to just unpack that a little bit for our listeners?
Yes, there's some research, and I can't quite quote you which one, but suggests that financial or economic abuse is present in around 90% of family violence cases. It's a feature. So family violence incorporates physical, or can incorporate physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional, psychological abuse, financial, legal abuse. So they're the sort of elements that can make up an experience of family violence. It goes together with this notion of coercive control. So if a woman is being controlled by a partner who's using these tactics, then he may or may not be hitting her. He may or may not be sexually abusing her. He might be saying, right, well, your money comes to me, or he might go and be using the family car, and clock up freeway toll fines, and it could be registered in her name and she's got to pay. He could be coercing her to sign documents related to business, or he could be literally standing over her at the THM and saying, hand over your welfare check. You know, those are the sorts of tactics that he could be using to control the finances of the family.
See, I thought it was just violence. Oh, okay. Maybe I knew that there were other little factors, but I didn't think that they were. I always felt that the hit was the worst thing that can happen inside the relationship, or the bash. But in actual fact, it's not, is it? There are other factors.
Well, some women have said that if he hits me, I kind of know what that is. But when it's the psychological abuse, they've got to second guess how he's going to react to a particular thing. I heard a woman once told me that she was allowed to meet a friend for coffee,
but she had to sit in the window of the cafe so that he, sitting in his car, who dropped her off, could watch her.
Oh, Lord above.
So other people, if you haven't experienced this, the temptation is to say, well, why does she let him do that? But there can be complicated dynamics at play too, because quite often women will say they felt that they deserved to be abused, because this is a part of culture of how gender roles are played out in our society. So, the traditional him the breadwinner, her the carer, the caregiver. Now, those are incredibly difficult gender roles and stereotypes that are very difficult to shift the perception. So even if she understands at a rational level that she should be able to say no, she was possibly going to have to deal with the consequences of saying no, and that could be a hit, or it could be any manner of retaliation, or she could be thinking, well, this is normal. This is how it is. I don't deserve to expect any better.
Are you? So I spoke to a woman from Asia yesterday, who may be my age, who wants to buy a house for a parent, but had all these opinions that had been offered to her by a brother, and then needed to have a conversation with a husband. And what I realised was she had no financial autonomy. It was something that she wanted to do, and she was clear that that was her pathway, but she couldn't make any of those decisions without, and I invited, as a practitioner in my own business, that her brother and her husband join us, because what I realised straight away was she's not actually the client. These men that are sitting behind her are the client, and they'll be telling her and instructing her on what to do. That's a form of abuse too, isn't it?
Yes, it's lack of equality, lack of autonomy, lack of being able to choose the directions or the actions you want to take. It's part of it.
So really, from Dublin in the 1800s, things really haven't changed very much at all, have they? It's just now we've got more funding and we don't have to, and the priests want to work with us better. Do you think we've come out of the Dark Ages?
This is a global phenomenon, absolutely. We've got international conventions that are guiding how countries should be developing services and supports, and it's across the world. It's absolutely across the globe. We are doing a lot better than we were. For instance, as I said to you yesterday, there's probably not a single Victorian that doesn't know that family violence exists and that pretty much it's wrong. Now, there are others, there are some that would say women are equally to blame, or there'll be others that say they brought it on themselves. There'll be some of those attitudes still there. But just generally speaking, this was not even talked about 30 years ago in Australia.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. It was not on the agenda at all. We were talking yesterday about the financial abuse and the length of that, and I didn't really quite understand that. So it's not just evident when you're in the home. It actually starts to get worse when you leave the home, doesn't it? Do you want to discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, one of the features of family violence, women's experience of family violence, which tends to be different to men's experience of family violence. So the evidence says is that women are more likely to experience, first of all, women are more likely to experience more forms of violence. So they are more likely to experience, as we discussed earlier, the physical, the sexual, the financial, and emotional, all part of it. They're also more likely to experience violence when they leave, whereas for men to leave a violent relationship, it tends to finish
when they leave the relationship itself. And with legal matters, the way they are separated into jurisdictions is that you can have your first intervention order, your first matter, family violence matter, can be a civil matter. And then if the intervention order is breached, it can be then a criminal matter. And then if you've got children and custody arrangements, it's a federal matter, which is a family court matter. And then if you've got a property settlement to come, then that's, again, another civil matter, but in a different jurisdiction. So you can have 5 different matters across different either state or federal jurisdictions with lawyers who are skilled in either criminal or civil matters or property or family matters. And those matters can continue for 5 years or so. And it's unlikely that you'll have one lawyer following you through each matter and each jurisdiction, which means the narrative of family violence or your experience of family violence as a cause or has impact on each of those matters is lost. So you might be then looking at a family court matter and they've not taken family violence into consideration, and so they say, right, equal custody. And so then, you know, a woman will need to give a child up where there's been an intervention order in the past.
I just feel like that's so wrong. Do the laws need to meet the problem? Do you think the law? It kind of feels like there's a misconnect between the actual event and the crisis, or have they fragmented it so they can stay on point but lose some of the emotional density in the problem?
Well, what I've described is symptomatic of all of our systems, which are fragmented according to what specialisation. So there are specialisations that need to occur. Even, you know, you related back to the hospitals where you still need surgeons who know hearts. You don't want the brain fellow to be working with the heart woman. You know, that's sort of, you know, just to come across. So you do need specialisation, which is where the fragmentation comes from. But it's the pulling in the bits or the coordination of that fragmentation that is required. So with the description of legal matters, different jurisdictions over 5 years, who is the coordinating factor? Who's got the ability to coordinate those matters over that length of time? And at this point in time, we don't have anyone who's able to follow those matters through for that period of time. So it's you know, basically it's been left to her to do that. Whereas we need more capacity within the system, the family violence system, to be able to help women to track those matters across that period of time. We sort of know that. I think we know now that recovering from family violence takes a lot longer than we've got funding for.
So the thing about the 5 years, are you noticing that women are settling matters early to get out of that time frame? So even a property settlement, I mean, if it's creating pain, and how do they financially make it through to the 5 years? Because that's 5 different lawyers.
Yes, well, and 5 years is, you know, arbitrary. You know, some matters will be heard more quickly and some will take longer. And some women will be eligible for legal aid, and some will have to employ lawyers. So, you know, the first matter that she goes to court for family violence intervention order, theoretically there will be support at court for when she gets there. Now, often courts are oversubscribed and she may not get the support she needs on the day, but theoretically it's there. She may be eligible for legal aid, especially if she's got, you know, if she's within the sort of below the asset limit. If she's above the asset limit, she'll have to employ her own lawyer. You know, if she's got a wealthy husband who's pursuing her through the courts, he may be able to employ a barrister. So that's where potentially superannuation can get hidden away. You know, there are tricks or tactics or mechanisms available, legal mechanisms that are available to to people. They know the ropes and the loopholes, and she may not have access to that level of sophisticated law expertise. So there, you know, she will potentially walk away, or she'll stay put in the relationship because it's her home. And well, I'm not going to walk away from my own home, I'll just put up with it. Or because she doesn't know where the attack's going to come from when she leaves, it's better to keep him in plain sight. You know, the whole heap of reasons why she wouldn't walk away, and there's another whole heap of reasons why she would walk away.
It's an onerous topic, isn't it? I could literally spend all day talking to you, Jocelyn. It's a study for me. I said to you the other day, I was talking to you the other day about this, and God loved my father, but that was what my father was a very, very wealthy man, and that's what he did. And the contracts we would sign, my mother would sign or we would sign, not having a clue what we were doing. So if you're in trouble out there right now, where do you need to go? How do you start? Let's give people some guidance on direction.
Certainly, if you're in fear for your life, is 000, call the police.
Right.
If you need advice, Safe Steps or 1-800-RESPECT, the two organisations that will give you good, practical, solid advice for what to do next, whether you are the person in the situation themselves or someone you are concerned about. But don't hesitate to call the police if you're in fear for your life.
How do people donate to you, Jocelyn? Because I think, you, WPI, your organisations need money. We notice that donations are down right now. If someone has money, how do they get it to you, Jocelyn?
If you come through to our website, www.macaulaycsw.org.au, or through our normal reception phone line, which I should be able to rattle off and can't. Right,
I've got it for you. It is 93628900. And if you've got a house that you'd like to give away, I'm assure you that Macaulay the Community Services for Women will be very grateful for it. A couple of houses, maybe 2 or 3. You're holding 5. If you've got some apartments and they're not doing well, we'll have them. Thank you for joining me, Jocelyn. You have been amazing. Thank you for sharing this incredible space with me today. Incredible. Everyone, if you need anything in this space, please reach out to us at Joy. And we want to thank Joy for all they do for us while we work remotely and for allowing us to bring this incredible content to you. Take care, everyone. Be safe. And if you are in need and you do need care, please do as Jocelyn said and just dial 000. Those guys are amazing. Those girls, they'll come down and they'll rescue you.